Cool, lady. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at Crypto News and Investigative Reports. I'm glad that you're here today. I am not a financial advisor, but I am glad that you're here today. I want to thank you all for reporting everyone that's on Facebook, YouTube, and all of those social media sources. I thank all the guys that are getting this news out to the public. We really appreciate you. Thank you for all your reporting on digital assets. Blockchain technology is the most important technology of our time. This is the most important technology of our future as well. All right, so thank you for joining us. I want to get right into it today. We got some real serious things. Kind of made a little list here of what we're going to be trying to go over. I kind of put it on a doc so it won't slow my computer down. Okay, so what do we got? Let's start with as cryptocurrencies rise, who needs banks? That's one of the stories that I'm going to be watching. As cryptocurrencies rise, who needs banks? That's a Harvard Business School article that I want to go over if I'm able to get to it. And it says some of the high points of that article was banks, after all, are in business of making money by selling money. Key lessons: the Fed can create money, but it's hard to predict where that money will go. So that's one of the issues that banks are having. I want to kind of break in and drill down on that a little bit. Another one of the high points I want to deal with today is central banks are moving away from cryptocurrencies and are looking for ways to apply their technology, the cryptocurrency technology that is, to traditional currencies that link directly to banks and other central banks using the central bank digital currency. If you watch any of my videos, I always say that the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Central Bank, and the Federal Reserve must come together. And that's happening because the only way you're going to get anybody coming together and working on the same page, they're all going to have these three entities, or maybe even four. These entities will have to come together in order for you to get this global movement of a digital currency. One digital currency. If it's going to be a global movement of one digital currency, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Central Banks, and the Federal Reserve all has to come together and get on one page to make that happen. And once you see that, then you will see global adoption. And then you'll see, after you see them all together as one unit, then you'll see the global adoption. Then you'll see one digital currency being able to be used. But without the banks, without the central banks, without the commercial banks, without the World Bank all coming together to get on one page, you're not going to have that happen. And I've been saying that on every one of my videos. But I think today that I got news today that they've done that. And we'll be able to see that in just a few minutes. What are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at something called the FATA. The FATA is the Financial Action Task Force. It's different from the Faster Payments Task Force that gave recommendations to the Federal Reserve, as well as it's different than the High Advisory Council, which was part of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. This entity is called the FATA. This entity put out a communique that's sent to the U.S. Treasury Department on July 20th, which was on my last video, that was given to President Donald Trump and to the Secretary of the Treasury, Steven Mnuchin. So the FATA is also known by its French name, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but I don't speak French. It's an intergovernmental organization founded in 1989 on the initiative of the G7 to develop policies to combat money laundering. And that's what I constantly keep saying as we continue to investigate these cryptocurrency reports. The whole thing is laundering. There must be a lot of crime out there. There must be a lot of gangsters out there, because the whole issue is crime. They're all talking about crime and money laundering, crime, money laundering, terrorist activities, and that seems to be the regulation policy regarding cryptocurrency, is that it needs to be regulated because of the AML and the terrorism, and then they're even starting to include sex trafficking as one of the difficult crimes that they're having to deal with. So we're gonna drill down a little bit into the AFTA, the Financial Action Task Force, also known by its French name. The G20 commitment to implement the FATA standards and support of work on crypto assets. And I kind of tweeted that out on my last video. I tweeted it out, as well as it's a lot of that information about the G20 is in my last video. The FATA report to the G20 finance ministers and the central bank governors of July 2018. Now, as we take a look at that, that's going to show us that we finally have what I've been saying for the last 12 months, that the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, central banks, and the Federal Reserve, they have come together. They had this meeting in July. They all come together and they sat down and they are all on the same page now. That's the great news today, that they're all together, they're all on one page. And the way that they solidified it, or the way they worked this out, was by deciding to go with the CBDCs, which we already talked about a little bit. The CBDCs has made it as given the central banks a way to keep control of their digital currency, as well as connect their digital currency to their fiat currency. That's what the central bank digital currency is going to do. It's going to allow central banks to keep their connection with their fiat currencies. And that was the whole thing before they would select a cryptocurrency. They had to figure out, okay, there's so much fiat currency in the world. How are we going to transition from a fiat currency world to a digital currency world? And the central banks was the ones that were that were very pinnacle in that process. If the central banks were not on board, if the governors of the central banks, if they were not on board, it was not about to happen. And then, so that brings me to this. Let me move on. I can go on about that subject. I've been trolling that subject for a couple of years. Bank of America is worried about the threat of cryptocurrencies to its businesses. That the fall guy here, and maybe that might be too strong of a term, but I'll use it anyway. The fall guy here to the central banks developing their own digital currency is the commercial banks. The commercial banks are the ones that lend. Their thing, you know, actually over the years, commercial banks have just gotten into data analytics. That's all commercial banks are doing is just data analytics, along with lending and payments. That's all commercial banks do. They data analytics, and then they have fees. That's what they've been killing the population with is fees. That's their whole thing, is fees. And so data analytics and fees, along with data analytics and fees, are the other thing that they've come to, is just trying to give services, trying to charge us for services. So Bank of America is worried about that, and as a consequence to that, to what the central banks and CBDCs are doing, let's read it. Bank of America is worried about the threat of cryptocurrencies to its businesses. Blockchains eliminate the need for third-party intermediary like a bank by creating an instant, permanent, and secure recording of transactions. See, so the thing about banks, they're solely commercial banks, I should say. Their whole thing was customer. So the commercial banks were primarily on visual, right? You can, if you lost your account number or anything like that, you could walk up to a commercial bank, show them your driver's license or your passport or whatever, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, here you are. But with that being antiquated technology, and the blockchain technology is the future technology, it's primarily based on PIN numbers, right? It's primarily based on data, right? And the internet of value David Schwartz, Chris Larson, and Brad Garlinghouse are working on, that great company called Ripple xrp over in San Francisco. That is basically a company that's working with data, right? They want to move the internet of value as moving money as fast as you move email and everything else. Well, with that being said, you're not going to need to walk up to a bank with your passport and your commercial with your license anymore and say, hey, that's my bank account. Everything is going to be on the internet. And so that's going to push commercial banks. They're the ones that's going to have to make the adjustment now, which is I'm glad, because commercial banks ain't never done nothing for anybody. commercial banks have always only charged you fees, charged you interest, and that's how commercial banks has been surviving, is charging interest on everything that they do. Matter of fact, get a car loan from a bank. You get a car loan from a bank, and you buy that car a month later, it's you got so much interest that you have to pay on it. It's only worth half of what they're selling it for you. As a matter of fact, cars are overpriced, especially in America. All right, so anyway, I'm sorry to go up on the tyrant on that. Blockchains eliminate the need for third-party intermediaries like banks and creating an instant payment and secure record of the transaction. What do we got here? We got a little bit more. It says, the company has more than 70, Bank of America, the company has more than 70 patents that can incorporate applications of blockchain, and several dozen of the patents for digital wallets. Catch that? Bank of America, Chase, and your Wells Fargo. So what's happening here is that while Berkshire Hathaway goes out there talking about don't invest in cryptocurrencies, Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett, is actually going out there and buying up as much cryptocurrency as they can, along with now trying to inundate us with wallets, digital wallets, because they want to keep control. They want to stay relevant. And so they have 70 patents. Now, their patents are not patents to help the customer for Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo. Berkshire Hathaway here, what they want to do is get patents so they can charge you to use their services like they do when you used to use a debit card. They charge for using your debit card. Well, they want to charge you for using digital services too. They want to charge you fees because that's how banks stay in the game. Okay, so that's what banks want to do. They want to charge you fees. They want to charge you money. So that's what these 70 patents are about. Now, it's great, and I agree with everybody and all of my YouTuber friends and Facebook friends and Twitter friends that are saying it's great that we're getting this institutional money coming in. Everything's going to shoot up. Institutional money's coming in. This is going to be great. I agree with them on that. That's excellent that all of that's happening. I appreciate that. But the thing that I always have said is that once institutional investors come in to cryptocurrency, they bring their problems along with them. One of the things that Berkshire Hathaway is going to bring in, and I keep saying that because they're the majority holder in Bank of America. And, we know all of the public statements that's been made that Warren Buffett has said about cryptocurrency. So, that's what these 70 patents are for. They're going to come in and they're going to try to use these patents to charge you fees. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to do it. All right, these 70 patents incorporate application of blockchain and several dozen other patents of digital wallets, means of authentication, and other processes needed to apply the technology in banking and commerce, according to David Pratt, managing director of McCann International. The firm maintains and achieved patent-related documents in 160 countries. All right. I want to cover how banks have set up a trap for the U.S. Feds by creating money. And I think I talked about that a little bit already, because there's, once they create money, it doesn't mean that it's going to be, the problem is that the world is already saturated with a lot of fiat currency. And if you look at, I was looking at Bloomberg this morning and then looking at the exchange rates for currencies. Some of them are really following down. The United States is in a lot of debt. China is kind of on the top in that situation. So that's a pretty interesting story. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to drill down on all of these today, because this would take 2 or 3 hours to do it. Banks of International Settlement, the BIS, central banks, digital currencies. And here's a statement I highlighted in red that basically relates to the commercial banking system. It says a general purpose CBDC, and you know what that is, could have wide-ranging implications for banks and the financial system. Commercial banks' reliance on customer deposits may become less stable. That's very important right there. Commercial banks' reliance on customer deposits may become less stable, as deposits could be more easily taken flight to the central bank in times of stress. We'll take a look at that. Besides consequences of financial stability, effects on the efficiency of the financial intermediation need to be carefully considered. All right, and then finally, central banks and digital currencies could impact payments, monetary policy, and fiscal stability. The central bank should continue to monitor developments and innovations, blah, 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 blah. All right, so let's get into it. This is kind of what, I won't be able to drill down on all of this, but over time, I'll drill down on all of it. And then over time, as you continue to watch me, hey, I want to say please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can also follow us at Crypto News and Investigative Reports on Twitter. So to follow us on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button. Also, please hit the bell, and that bell will alert you every time we're putting it up a new video. I'm trying to keep the public informed. That's the priority of Crypto News and Investigative Reporting. We're trying to do that by research. Everything that I'm putting up is public, and all of what I've just said right here are all off of different articles that I will be posting eventually and putting them all together. All right, so let's get started. Here it is. Do I want to do this first? Yeah. Wait a minute. Not that. Let's go right here. This is the big news, guys. This is my big news. I've always said anytime the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, and the central banks, once they all come together on one page, you will get a global selection of a cryptocurrency. And so today I'm showing you at that meeting, this is the third meeting. There's going to be 2 more meetings this year. That's why everything Q4 is actually going to be probably phenomenal for cryptocurrencies. Because what you have here at this July meeting is you have the IMF, you have the Federal Reserve, and you have the central bank all together meeting, all on one page. Finally, you got the central bank together, you got the IMF together, and you got the Federal Reserve in one room, in one meeting, all working together to figure out what they're going to do regarding selecting that cryptocurrency. My prediction that the selection of cryptocurrency that they're going to select is going to be Ripple XRP. That's what I'm predicting. I'm predicting that Ripple XRP is going to be used as the intermediary. See, that was always the issue. The issue was, how are we going to make the transition from fiat currency to digital currency? So here you have it, folks, right here. This is Christine Lagarde. She is the director of the International Monetary Fund. We already know that Chris Larsen and Ray Zagone was part of the High Council Advisory Board to her regarding cryptocurrencies, regarding the transition. And that's what Ray Zagone and Chris Larsen, I'm sure they were saying, well, look, we can transition. How are we going to do this? Well, we got some things we can do already. Well, what is that? Well, we have Ripple XRP as a cryptocurrency. We have XCurrent as the infrastructure. We have XVIA as the way that we can move these contracts, get these signatures, move that. So, you know, and then we have XSpring with the interledger protocol, distributed ledger technology. We have consensus. Ripple XRP has the whole package. And so here it is. Here we got it right here, friends. We got Christine Lagarde right here whispering into the ear. That's what it kind of looks like, of guess who? Jerome Powell, the Fed chief. That's him sitting right next to her. So you got the IMF, you got the Federal Reserve, and you got all the central bank governors all in one room smiling because they are all on one page. And in Q4, they're going to hold 2 more meetings, one in September, one in October. And those 2 meetings are going to say, and what they actually did is, when you get all these people together, you get policy and guideline, development of policy and guidelines. That's all they needed to do. They have structure. They already know how it's going to work. They just needed to work out what Brad Garlinghouse always says is that little liquidity problem, How are we going to move that liquidity? That's what Brad Garlinghouse would, you know, when I watch some of his videos, I always, you know, take that when he's talking about liquidity. Well, here it is, folks. Here's your liquidity. The IMF right here, They because she's over the IMF. Then we have the Fed chairman right here, Jerome Powell, and we have all the governors of the banks. This is the third meeting of the finance ministers and central bank governors of the G20. Now, on my last video, so now I'm good with this now. So now I'm going to start to say, since I have this photo and this copy, this documented proof here, that they are all on the page. Now I'm going to say we're definitely going to get a global selection of a cryptocurrency, and I believe that that cryptocurrency is going to be Ripple XRP because they're in the best position to work with banks. Payment providers, they'll be foolish not to select Ripple XRP. Any payment provider, American Express, Western Union, MoneyGram, those are payments. That payments are nothing. You know, everybody making payments. Whoever's going to be making payments, Ripple is XRP. The XRP cryptocurrency can be used for that already, for payments. It's already been done. xrp is already good for that. But for banks, the issue was, how are we going to use? How is that infrastructure going to work? How are all of these different? Because these are regional. These are central bank governors, and they're in different parts of the region. And if you look at my last video, you'll see on my last video, or maybe the one before that, one of my last couple of videos, I talked about the change that central banks, all of these central banks were going through. Prior to this meeting, prior to July, if you go back and look at any news regarding central banks prior to July, this July meeting, the majority of them were saying, we're banning cryptocurrency. Thailand, China, Korea, they were all banning crypto. And as a matter of fact, one of the toughest countries that's going to have to step up is China, because they hold such a monopoly on the fiat currency on everybody. They control so much debt in the world. And so here it is, one more time. I'm really pumped on this one more time. The IMF is right here. The Feds is right here. And the central banks all have come together to work with the central banks and the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve to select the process by which this is all going to work regarding digital currencies. We also have the, what is this? This is, all right, boom. All right, here's the report that they worked on, the FATA report to the G20 finance ministers and the central banks, the governors of the central banks. And here's that report. Let me do it like this. Let me see. All right, here's the same report. I might have to move it over. Sorry about this, guys. Hang on just a second. All right. Let's see if we can move this over a little bit. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, it's the Financial Action Task Force. This is different from the Faster Payments Task Force. This is the one. The Faster Payments Task Force went directly to the Federal Reserve. That's who did this. Is different. So let me just scroll down a little bit. The FATA report to the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors, July 2018. Now let me tell you this. If you watch one of my last couple of videos, you'll see that this is the report. This is the communique that went to. Actually, let me move over to this one. Is this the same one? This one right here. Here it is. This is the communique that they sent, that the G20 finance ministers, all of these people right here, yeah, these people right here sent a communique to the United States, to the federal government, Fed. The Feds took this and shifted it over and sent it to the U.S. Treasury Department, and Steve Mnuchin wrote President Donald Trump, the results or the information was given to him in the charter of the U.S. 2020. Let me see if I can find that. Hold on just a minute. Wait a minute. That's not what I want. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can find this. My computer's slow. Sorry about that. Well, anyway, when it comes up. So what actually happened is on the communique, when the U.S. Treasury Department got it, they began to work on it, and they wrote a whole full document, and that's out. That's on my last video about that U.S. Treasury Department. The order is 13772, I think it is, and that's what you'll see given to President Donald Trump. Also, folks, follow me on Twitter. I do have crypto news and investigative reports on Twitter. Please like my Twitter page. I really would appreciate that. I'm trying to increase the numbers of followers. You see, I don't have very many followers there. But I try to make sure that I give you all good content and try to make sure what we're giving you is the best information that's available. So anyway, here it is right here. This is the communique from the G20 finance ministers and the central banks. And the G20, it actually has all these different numbers. And I ain't going to read it all. I'll just read number 7. It says, we continue to monitor debt vulnerabilities, low income countries. No, that's not what I want. I want the digital currency. Technical, number 10. Here it is. Technological innovation, including those underlying crypto assets, can deliver significant benefits to the financial system and to the broader economy. Crypto assets do, however, raise issues with respect to consumers and investors, market integrity, tax evasion, money laundering, and terrorist financing. Crypto assets lack the key attributes of a sovereign currency. While crypto assets do not at this point pose a global financial risk, we remain vigilant. We welcome updates provided by the FSB and the SSB and look forward to their future work on monitoring the potential risks of crypto assets and to assess multilateral responses as needed. We reiterate our March commitments related to the implementation of the FATA standards, and we ask the FATA to clarify in October, which is they're going to have a September emergency meeting, but then they're going to have another meeting in October 2018, how its standards apply to crypto assets. And so I'll just read that. And what's important about this particular paragraph is that it is addressing the issue of how they're going to select crypto assets and how they're going to work with crypto assets. And so this is part, let me see if my Twitter came up. Yeah, it finally came up. And so I tweeted, oh man, it's just I'm sorry, my computer is really slow today. But most of the articles that I'm talking about, I have already tweeted. Ripple News Investigative Reports. No, that's today. Bragg Garlinghouse. No. Hang in here, folks. My computer's kind of loading, kind of slow. But anyway, I'll continue on. So what's important about that particular paragraph is, and you can go on and you can pull this up. This is the G20 information communique from the Argentina 2018, how the G20 finance ministers and the central bank governors are working together with the Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund. They all had to come together and work together for them to select a global cryptocurrency, and they have come together to be able to do that. And that's why this picture right here, is so important, because this picture right here shows you that, I'll say it again, and I'm really pumped on it. Christine Lagarde of the IMF, you have the IMF, you have the Federal Reserve, and all the central banks. And like I said, and you want to stay tuned to Crypto News and Investigative Reports, because I'm going to drill down on the consequences, who makes it and who doesn't regarding this. And it doesn't look like my Twitter page came up. All right, it came up a little bit. Oh yeah, I want to give a shout out to this guy, Steve. he kind of put us all together in one, one beautiful collage, man, of all of the, here's Hold, here's Crypto Eddie, the XRP man, Love for Crypto, Jungle Inc. And man, this guy, Kung Fu Nerd, this guy really took some time and put us all together. Up here is Esoteric Trading. I really appreciate this guy doing it. So thank you, Steve. That was really nice of you putting all of us YouTubers together. I'm just trying to get to that communique that I tweeted out. New crypto, what does that say? And payment Swift. I'm looking for it too fast, guys. I probably won't be able to find it. Anyway, you want to stay tuned to Crypto News and Investigative Report as we drill down on this subject, and we continue to seek and find what's going on and who's making these big moves. All right, please follow me. I'm going to cut off right there because I could keep going. This is like a never-ending story. But I want you to stay with us, continue to follow us, and once again, here we go. We got the G20. You might want to pull this up for yourself. The FATA. I'll recap. The FATA has sent over regulations and guidelines about how to deal with the institution of the global movement for the cryptocurrency. These are the regulations and the policy, the regulation policy that the FATA has sent over to sent over from the IMF, from the Federal Reserve, and from the central banks. They sent that information over, and they distributed that information. And now the consequences to all of that and everything that I've said today is that we are now all set up and ready to go for the IMF, Central Bank, World Bank, Federal Reserve to select the cryptocurrency. And I will conclude this video today by saying I believe that cryptocurrency that is going to be XRP. I believe they're all going to work with Ripple. We all have been reporting that pretty synonymously. All right? Until the next time, wherever you are, have a good day, or if it's nighttime, wherever you are, have a good night. Please subscribe, and please follow me on Twitter, Crypto News and Investigative Reports. We're on Twitter. Please follow us on Twitter. Please leave your comments, by the way. It is your comments that keep me going. Let me know, what do you think about all of these three major entities and what they're doing. All right, and then I'll drill down this on my next video a little bit further. I'll get a little more concise and a little bit more precise, about what's going on. And until the next time, all right, you guys have